That's the sound of going live, Greg.
That's the one. All right. A moment ago, I followed a false prophet.
Yeah. See, I'm a professional, so I record a studio quality backup on my own computer, and that's the one I upload to the site. So you get a higher quality show. So if you want higher quality, go ahead and download it from my website. Cheap plug.
So basically, for a better experience, wait to listen until after we've broadcasted live.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That way you get to hear the bass in our voices.
So everybody that's listening in right now, just come back in a few hours. And
exactly. Download it. That way I get traffic to my site too.
Ooh. Do you get any ads on there yet?
No ads.
You gotta get some ads on there.
I know.
That's how people know you're legitimate, is when you start plastering everything you do with advertisements.
That's true.
That's how you know you hit the big leagues.
You're definitely not legit until you have like a Dollar Shave Club.
And for my advertisements, I choose the Richfield Group at 1-800.
I think I'm missing the joke. But welcome everybody. How are you? How you doing, Greg?
Oh, today is the first time ever that I injured myself getting prepared for a podcast.
Oh man.
This has never happened to me before.
Tell us all about it.
And I pray it never does again.
I hope it doesn't either.
So I cleaned up my apartment the other day, because there's actually two parts of how my weekend has gone so far. I had to clean my apartment because we had a situation that was going to necessitate our landlords coming over.
Yep.
And nobody wants their house to look shitty when the people that own the building that it's in are going to be there.
No.
Because that's how you find things like, oh, my rent went from $800 to $1,300 from year to year.
Yeah, how'd that happen?
Like, that's how that happens.
Because you're slobs.
Yeah, because you're disgusting. So, clean the house, put all the stuff away, put my microphone away for the podcast. I went into the closet to get it so we could have a better quality than if I just elected to use my not that great Skype headset.
Right.
And my closet is 3.5, maybe 4 feet from my desk. Somehow, in this minuscule, trivial amount of distance, I dropped the bag that holds my studio quality microphone and hit myself in the nuts with it as it was falling. And I just collapsed down to the ground in despair and shame. Well,
so much shame.
While clutching myself. My girlfriend's looking at me like I just had like a heart attack or something's gone wrong. I didn't want to tell her what happened.
Right.
I'm like, you don't want to know. She's like, you're not going to tell me? I'm like,
no.
I dropped the microphone and hit myself in the nuts. And then she just started laughing.
Yeah. I did that, and I don't want to talk about it.
I warned her to not. I warned her to not use all of her compassion up on me. But
hey, getting hit in the nuts at any time, no matter what the reason is I feel for you.
No, yeah,
it's not cool.
These microphones are practically like the size of like a balled up metal fist. Like
yeah, I use a Blue Yeti microphone, and this thing weighs a good like 8 pounds.
Yeah, no, that's the same as my Audio Technica one. It is no trivial feat to get walloped in the dick with one of them.
No, so, I don't want to get a nut shot with mine. That's for sure.
I don't want that to happen to you either.
No. Well, let's make a pact right now. It's not going to happen.
like the dual-sided suicide pact.
Yeah, microphone getting hit in the nuts with the microphone pact. Probably the first one. Hopefully the last one.
I wonder if if we get really big and famous, if one of your people will go as like somebody getting hit in the nuts with a microphone for Halloween.
Or we'll just print up t-shirts of you getting smashed in the nuts with a microphone.
God damn it.
With a question mark over your head. Like, how did this happen? How did this happen? Shirt. Yes. How did this happen to me?
Yup. So we're not on Monday anymore. We made it back to normal person time.
Yes. Regular Sunday is so much better.
I agree.
I don't particularly, I'll do Monday. I'll do Monday every week if I have to, but for some reason, Sunday is just regular old Sunday as opposed to Monday.
Yeah.
It's just so much better.
I agree, especially because I'm going to start going back to the gyms during the during the weekday. Gonna go and pick up the medals and put them down.
Getting jacked.
Gonna get jacked.
Nice.
Yeah, it's just trying to continue on a quest of being not fat is actually the primary objective.
Yeah.
Which this weekend I took a serious blow with my progress because I was like, I'll just grab a few beers from the store and I'll cheat a little bit again after Halloween went by.
Right.
And that 6-pack of beer didn't know it was coming. Yep.
Oh, Greg.
I know.
What are you gonna do? So what's your goal is just to lose weight?
Yeah, just to not be fat.
That's not a bad goal.
That's kind of the objective.
And you're not even that fat.
Yeah. I'm not super bad. I'm like 190 to 195.
Yeah, that's not bad.
And trying to get down to 165, 170.
And you're 4'7".
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So that's not bad.
Yeah, I just bounced down the stairs. The weirdest part about when I realized that I was maybe a little bit overweight was not so much like people tell you that when you look at yourself in the mirror, you start to like, there's a point where you just notice.
Right.
And it was the fact that whenever I walked, people would follow me playing like really galumpity music on a tuba and a trombone. Like, bump, 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 bump. That's how I know.
That's I don't know if there's a clearer sign than that.
That's what it is.
There's only so many times. There's only so many signs that are that clear.
When the soundtrack of your life is played with a tuba, you got to lose some weight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was actually I was a chunky fuck myself growing up.
What? No, you weren't.
Yes, I was. When you met me, I wasn't. I was thin. But yeah, I was a chunky kid.
I would have never known that.
Yeah, ask my brother. I was chunky. I don't know if there's any old pictures out there of it, but definitely.
And then if there are, bring them to me so I can burn them, says John.
If there are, I'll find them and post them just to prove it to you.
Throwback Thursday.
But yeah, I don't know what happened. I just grew up and I got thinner.
Maybe you're just like kind of compact. You're like one of those things you throw in the water and expands into a dinosaur sponge.
Yeah.
So maybe that's
okay.
No,
because that would be the opposite.
That would be
it'd be like if you took that expander and then you wrapped it in the capsule.
Right.
I'm just wrapped in my capsule. Right. I'm just waiting to be put in the water.
Good Lord.
And just blow up. And then always like the leg pops out first. Like it's never perfect.
No.
It's never like a 3, 2, 1. Boom.
No. Yeah, it's always, and one of the pieces is always like stuck, and yeah.
It's just horrible.
Those things are really expensive too. Like that's the worst part. It's like $5 for a package of 4 capsules.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it because nobody buys them anymore?
So if you could get if you get like a pickle jar full of these things, I would be all over it.
Right.
Like just stuffed with these like expandable capsule dinosaur sponges. I would do that all the time.
Be all over that shit.
Mold the sponges down. Yeah, I don't even know what I'd need that many sponges for. But just actually, no, I know exactly what I'd do. I'd fill the tub with water and empty several hundred capsules in at once.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah,
and they all pop like popcorn. Big pop, 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 pop.
Dinosaurs flying everywhere.
Yep, because the whole thing would be filled with the capsules, but they're so much bigger.
Yep,
outside the capsule.
There could be a really shitty movie here. I don't have a pun for it yet, but oh my god, I can warn you that in the next hour or so it hits me.
Oh, it's gonna be horrible. It's gonna be a tragic pun for everybody.
So, what did your week have in store for you?
My week was fairly boring. My weekend was pretty good.
Okay.
Yesterday I went to arm wrestling practice, and I don't know if I brought it up on the podcast or not, but I've been fighting a right hand injury all year. The tendons that basically control your pinky and the underside of your forearm where they connect inside of your hand was tearing away from the bone in my right hand. And I didn't know that it was hurt that bad from like January to about July. And I was attempting to compete with it all throughout that time.
I remember that.
You do?
No, I remember I saw you in July of the past year, and you had hurt your right hand, and you're just like, I'm just gonna deal with it because how bad can it be? It just
Oh
hurts a
yeah,
little
yeah,
bit.
yeah. I remember now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I didn't know that is apparently how bad it could be.
Yeah, yeah. I went to a. I look back now at how ridiculous it was, because I actually went to a national tournament, telling my teammates that, well, if I just do one move and that's it, then it won't hurt so bad, and I should be able to win some matches. And when you're talking about there's endless techniques in arm wrestling, and you're choosing one because all the other ones are horribly painful, you're making a really dumb decision to continue on. And I went to that tournament and I used that one move all the way to the finals. And ended up having a not even that hard of a match and just re-injured it worse than it was prior. So I ended up going to the doctors and went through a couple months of physical therapy and basically didn't use it for those 2 months and for about a month after. And I've kind of just been on the practice table trying to rebuild it with my team for the last probably 6 weeks. And yesterday it was like the first time where I felt like I'm back to where I was before. And I'm not, but I mean, it's close enough where it's not frustrating.
Right.
And it's still, I mean, I can still feel it, but it's not really painful anymore as much as uncomfortable. So hopefully the next year will bring some good stuff for me right-handed.
That's rough. I'm so you're gonna have permanent damage or
No, not
okay.
really, not really permanent. The only thing that's permanent that I can tell so far is my range of motion isn't quite the same. Meaning if you curl your wrist, it should be roughly 90 degrees from your forearm to your hand. And my right hand now is about, I would say it's probably 85 degrees. Or
So very, very slight reduction in your range of motion.
yeah,
Okay.
which isn't a big deal really, but I mean there's definitely a difference. And if I put my thumb in my over the where I was injured before, there's a nice little like ball of scar tissue in there.
No, you primarily I thought were a left-handed arm wrestler.
Oh, I do both.
You do both?
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm right-handed naturally. My left and right arm are very different. My left hand, I would say, is stronger, but my right arm is stronger. And I don't even know if that's true anymore. Because with that injury, I was avoiding a lot of the arm. It's hard to explain, but there's moves that really attack somebody's arm, and then there's moves that attack somebody's hand and fingers. And I switched from attacking people's arms to attacking their hand and fingers with my right arm, and I didn't really do that before. So now
Right.
I'm kind of healthier, where now I have these new angles.
Right, because now you have, from an injury that you sustained, you've now developed new techniques that you can now incorporate with
the old ones
you used to have.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's like, I don't even know, because my left arm is always pretty good, but my right has been feeling, the last 2 weeks has been feeling like, the next year is going to be pretty good for it.
So the next person that has the misfortunacy of locking up with you is going to potentially lose their arm.
Well, I hope hopefully they just lose. I'll settle with them. I'll settle with them just losing the match. I'll settle with that. I haven't hurt anybody yet, and knock on wood, I don't hurt anybody because I don't want to do that. But yeah, so my right arm is feeling pretty good.
That's good.
Yeah, I heard it in January, so it's been 11 months. So it's been really frustrating. And then you get out there and you compete, and you don't tell anybody that you're hurt because you don't want people to know that. So
yeah, because then I'm assuming something where, like any other sport, they'll assess whether or not you're actually still eligible to compete with your injury because of liability.
No, really, as long as you sign the paperwork, it's up to you.
No, that's even better. They don't even
Yeah,
care.
yeah, but it's
But this will
really
be more, maybe more of like a sweep the leg type deal, where if like somebody finds out you've got an arm that's hurt, they're like, "Oh, good, this will be easy."
exactly. If somebody hears, oh man, his wrist is like, falling apart, they're going to attack that.
Right.
And also, I don't want the message being out there like, oh, he showed up, but he didn't do that well because he was hurt.
Right.
I don't want that excuse. If someone beats me, they beat me. So,
That's a really interesting thing that you say about that too, because um, a lot of people will kind of go the other route, where there's not necessarily go for the excuse of something, but they'll say, "Oh no, I got beat because I got beat," but the other person knows. It's even more like for the other individual, where the victory that they have, even if you say that your injury wasn't a factor
mhm.
in what you're doing, and even if it legitimately wasn't, somebody thinking that they beat you because that it could have been a factor at all in their mind might have cheapened their victory over you, and not even just as an excuse, but just their picture would be like, I probably might not have won if he wasn't injured. So like
Right.
that's actually a really kind and decent thing to do.
Yeah, I don't, because I've beat people that, had excuses and stuff, or not even excuses, just reasons. And it doesn't feel good when you do that and people have, 10 reasons to why you won. It doesn't,
Right.
because you worked real hard,
Right.
because a lot of times in events, what will happen is, say the top dog is there and the second top dog is there too, and they get first round match and it goes for a minute, which is a long time.
Right.
And then they both lose the tournament because you just couldn't recover fast enough. Well,
Right.
the people who beat those guys afterwards, they might look at that and say, well, I definitely wouldn't have beat that guy if that hadn't happened. But, at the end of the day, that guy did show up and work and get it done.
Well, beyond just that too, the people that they're fighting afterwards in their second round after their first round,
Yep.
they still had to go through somebody else before those people too, and they still need to recover also.
Right.
So it's not that they've had any fewer any fewer points by the time you get deeper into those brackets. It's not like not everybody's going to be tired and sore when you're going through like a marathon event of locking arms with people and trying to overcome each other in a feat of raw strength.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, and that's the beauty of all the techniques is that if you choose the right techniques for a lot of people, you have an easier day
right.
because you can choose the weakest link in their, in that person's game. And that goes with a lot of work too, because nobody's really blessed with every technique. You have to really work. A lot of people are blessed with one area where they're strong.
Do you know who you're going to be locking up with in advance before you go to the tournaments? Like, are the brackets available in advance?
No, no. When you weigh in, typically you pick a number and they put the number in it's a random bracket.
Do you watch videos of people that are in your weight class that'll frequent the circuits that you go to see how they compete?
Absolutely.
Haha.
For sure, for sure. And another thing that I do, and that I suggest every arm wrestler does. This isn't any groundbreaking advice, but it is advice that I don't see people do or take. Is to go to other teams and practice with other teams, because you want to arm wrestle against as many different arms and hands as you possibly can. And you want to try things out that you're not going to be very good at on the practice table, not on the competition table. Because I tell the new guys all the time, you want to suck in practice, not on the competition table.
Right.
There's going to be things that you try in practice that you're going to fail miserably at, and you're going to look stupid.
It's very interesting hearing you kind of describe some of this stuff, because for a couple of years I used to play Street Fighter competitively, and I'd go to tournaments for that, and went to Vegas for it a few years back, and always kind of like competitive fighting and playing something I've done for a long time. And it sounds like a lot of things are very similar, because what happens when you get into like the higher levels of fighting game competition is you're no longer playing a matchup against a character that you're fighting off against. You're playing the human opponent that you know who they are and what they prefer to do in matches, and like what their kind of arsenal of shenanigans is.
Right.
And knowing that information is really, really key. And I've found too that the biggest difference in any sort of one-on-one competition isn't even so much necessarily the amount of techniques that you know or the strategies that you're aware of. It's how quickly you can adapt based on what strategy your opponent is using.
I
Because
100% agree. Yep.
yeah, the ability to recognize and respond and to change that dynamic and um, know when you're kind of setting yourself up for failure is something that you only get with like a lot of time and practice in anything.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I like seeing. Well, I don't like seeing it, but I like being able to recognize now with other guys in my team that a lot of guys, they have a plan A and that's it, and they will, if you put up a brick wall, they will keep smashing their head against it because that's plan A. They
right.
never think of turning around. There needs to be a plan B, and you need to, in a split second, be able to stick with plan A until you understand that that's not going to work, and then
Well,
immediately switch to plan B.
and if it's really well known that what your plan A is, and it's somebody that people know you're going to go for plan A, they're probably already going to find a way to counter you and turn that against you as soon as you sit down with them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. They're already, because, I'm watching video of people are watching video of me. So they know the basic direction I'm going to go, more than likely. Now it's my job to develop directions that they have no idea about, or be strong in a direction that I'm not known for being strong at. So that's my responsibility. And that's, a lot of people don't really want to hammer home their weaknesses. They want to focus on what they're strong at, because what they're strong at feels good because it works most of the time.
Right.
It's
Right.
just,
But it makes you a very one-dimensional competitor.
it makes you one dimensional. It makes you very predictable.
I think competition is something that initially, at face value, you look at it and anything, and it just seems like, oh, well, whoever can do this or can do this is going to win. But if you look at anything, like whenever a pitch is thrown in baseball, or whenever a play is called in football, I think the entire point of competition is to try and do something that surprises your opponent enough to create an advantageous situation for you.
Yeah. I try to make, I don't mind if my opponent, or I don't mind if I'm uncomfortable before a match, as long as my opponent's uncomfortable too. What I don't want is, I don't want some animal across the table from me and I'm uncomfortable and he's not,
Right.
because that's going to be a bad day for me more than likely. Now, if we're both uncomfortable, I'll find a way. That's my mentality. Does it always work? Of course not. But I I believe that I know enough about the game that if we're both uncomfortable, I can find a lane that'll work.
Do you feel that you've reached a point in your competitive arm wrestling career where guys locking up with you are nervous to be sitting at the table with you because they know who you are?
There are definitely some, not all, but there are some. The thing that's good about it, and the thing that's fun for me, is that the other guys who are at a high level, they believe the same as much as I do, that they're going to win.
Right.
So that's when it's really, you were saying before that you get to create a situation where they're surprised enough where you have an advantage. It's really about, at that point, it's about whose discipline is going to be better than the other one. I know what I'm going to do, and I know how to execute all the things I need to do, and so does that guy. At that point, it's, let's see who wants it more, who's got a little bit more endurance, who's got a little bit more power, speed, whatever. So at that point, mentally, hopefully we're both similar, because if I believe I'm going to win, and he doesn't, but we're similar physically, he's in a lot of trouble,
Right.
because he's going to hesitate for a second. And in a sport where it's ready, go, and it's explosive, that's way too long. You can't hesitate at all.
How would you say that? Like, what effect would you say that having that or being involved in that level of competition has had on your personality as a whole?
Um, I do know that, as opposed to before I was a competitive arm wrestler and now after, um, I certainly believe in myself more, just knowing that there was a certain point, like when I very first started, that really all I wanted to do was just be one of those guys. I didn't care if I was terrible at it. I didn't care if um, I was weak. I didn't care about any of that. I just wanted to be one of those guys because I thought the sport was just cool. And when you're really far away from a goal, and the goal is to, be competitive, when you're really far away from that, which I was when I started, um, you don't even know if it's possible because it's so far away. And then when it started to, be obvious that it was possible, that I was able to, hang with these guys and be respected by them in whatever capacity, it really does make you go, well, I didn't feel like that was even a possibility before, and that is now. How many other things in my life are the same? What other things can I apply that to? Well, basically anything. If you work hard enough at something, you want it bad enough, you might not be able to be the best, but you can tap your potential. You just got to work.
Because I think I remember you started really getting into the competitive scene around what, 2006, 2007? Does that sound about right?
It was actually 2009.
2009.
Yep.
So you were looking into it earlier, but then you eventually committed to it later.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yep.
Because I remember for a period there, you were I think you were definitely more depressed and downtrodden than you are just in general now. At this point, I think you're pretty good.
Yeah, 100%. Yes.
How much of an impact would you say that going out there and challenging yourself and competing helped turn that around? And if you hadn't picked this up, how do you think you'd be doing now, as opposed to now that you put yourself kind of in that line of fire where you were working to do an improvement just to try? Like, what effect has it had on you?
I think it's had a big effect, because you did point, I was a depressed, downtrodden guy, and I was really turning to alcohol and drugs at that point to try, like a lot of people do, because at a certain point, it's like, man, if I can't fix this, I'm going to numb it. And I'm not the kind of guy that when I drank and did drugs that I really wanted to be I wasn't social when I did it. I got to a certain point where like, okay, I want to go home, and
Right.
I want to keep doing all this stuff by myself, and I wouldn't use, I didn't talk to people for days, anybody. It was just, obviously not a good situation.
Right.
And really, I don't know if competing really helped with that or not, maybe a little bit, but what really helped with it was being a part of this group. And you realize that this group is really like a family, because when I first started, especially, it's getting better. But when I first started arm wrestling, it was super underground, meaning there wasn't a whole lot of money. You didn't know a whole lot of people that did it, but this group was so like tight. It was a super tight knit group, and really what most people would call a family. And you realize that they're all super nice guys, and they just want more people to be involved with it that are cool. And
Right.
when that group of people accepts you, and they continue to want you to come, and they show concern if you don't want to come, it makes you feel like, okay, there's some people out there that I can get a hold of. I can get a hold of this lifestyle. And then slowly, getting off drugs and alcohol, really mostly alcohol. I think the fact that I got into arm wrestling really helped me quit drinking and using drugs. And that's what really started the turnaround in my life.
Good.
Because I'm one of those guys, I just can't, as soon as I have one beer, because I've tried over the years to socially drink.
Yeah.
If I have one beer, the first thought I have is I'd like to have 15 more of these.
Yeah. Chew all aboard the alcohol train.
Yeah. I mean, you drank with me enough. Like
Yeah.
The way we didn't drink to have, well, we did drink to have fun, but we drank a whole hell of a lot. And it was like days in a row. And with me, like some people can do that and just go, yeah, party, this is great, and live a life. With me, it was like, yeah, okay, guys, I'm gonna go home now and just keep doing this and not talk to
Yeah,
anybody. And it's like that's just, for me, as far as living a life and using drugs recreationally, it's impossible.
I've kind of found that where I ended up on the spectrum is I'll go like a couple of weeks, and then I'll have like a pretty crazy weekend,
Hmm.
and then I'll go a couple of weeks again. Like it's one of those types of deals is how I usually handle it these days, which I prefer opposed to like cracking open a beer every night that I come home from work.
Right.
And I've noticed I've become like really observant as to how people that I know are when they drink compared to like myself, for example. Like when Brad and Brian were here over the summer, like we drank quite a bit over the week because
Hmm.
it was vacation,
Right.
and just kind of noticing the dynamic of the more that we drank, we just in general became like more talkative and like kind of like laughed a bit more. And um, I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like you're hanging out with people doing that. And I know other people that like you mentioned, like, yeah, when they start drinking, it gets weird. Like they don't get happier and have more want to drink more with their friends. They kind of like recede and pull away.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's one of those things where it's like we're on a different wavelength here.
Absolutely.
If that's your approach to this, because
Right. Yeah. I
um,
mean, I think because I don't ever try to talk anybody out of using anything. If
right,
if you can if you can have spend time with your friends and have a crazy weekend, and great. I don't think there's anything wrong with using anything recreationally. Um, I can't,
right,
and it's been a lot of years where it's not even easy for me to say that because I like to think that I have a lot of control over my life. But I realize that when I start feeling that way, and by that way I mean intoxication of any kind, I realize that I don't. And it's not even that I don't have control, is I stop wanting to have control.
yeah, I just kind of want to let it go.
When there's a lot of like, fuck it, why not? We'll just do it. Like, why would I not do it? And
Right.
I have like 10 reasons to why I shouldn't be in control anymore. And when I'm sober, those 10 reasons seem absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah, because it's just the whole mindset change is when you're intoxicated, it generally will bring out whatever the strongest underlying emotion you have is.
Hmm.
And if it's something where you still have things that are frustrating to you or you're upset about or whatever, it's much easier to say fuck it and just walk away from like good stuff when you're drunk.
Yeah, it's just like for some reason I am a different person, and it's not necessarily bad for the people around me, but it's certainly bad for me.
Right.
And even having that one beer, is it a problem where like the next day I really want another beer? No. But I don't want to live the moment where I have to stop myself from saying, okay, you don't need more. And I
Right.
and I immediately do. I taste the beer, I feel it, and I go, I want a whole lot more of this right now. Let's do this.
So you're pretty much done drinking completely at this point then.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I
Okay.
don't drink at all.
Okay.
And luckily I don't miss it at all either. you know?
Yeah, no, that's what I had thought, and that's why I didn't last times I've seen you, I didn't try and bring it up too much. I think I remembered you had initially stopped drinking for a while too after your mother had died.
After my mom died, I did stop. And it was a lot different for me, because we went kind of hog wild from like 14 to 17, where
Yeah.
like I remember kids from other city or other towns would come over and drink with us, and we'd be like, you know what we should do? We should do this again tomorrow. And they were
Yeah.
like, dude, what are you talking about? Tomorrow's, what are you talking about? And I've talked about this with other kids from our group
Right.
back then, and they're like, I've been like, how didn't we not see like the addictive tendencies in us? Like
We
we
just
were
didn't know.
right, exactly. Well, everybody was doing it too, so it was like, well, he's all right. That guy right there is all right, and like, no, none of us are really all right.
No, yeah,
we,
it was
we were all fucked up.
yeah, the scariest part is when you realize like when you have like when it's really bad and you realize you're still maintaining your normal life, you're like, "Oh god, Like,
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. And really, you think you're maintaining your normal life. And then you look back and you go, oh shit, like really, I wasn't maintaining shit.
yeah,
Like I had a
yeah.
job or I was able to go to school, but like I wouldn't really call it maintaining anything.
Like when you have a point where I think the biggest example is whenever you've had to call in because you're too hungover to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a pretty good example of you might have let it go a little too crazy.
Yeah. I remember finding a friend's car to go sleep in the back seat for a couple hours at school.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, yeah, this something's, something should change here. But, it didn't, not for years. But yeah, after my mom died, I stopped drinking just because basically I had a lot more responsibility.
Right. Yeah, because
And
you helped a lot with trying to get your dad through that because your dad was in a pretty bad way
yeah, absolutely.
for a while. Your brother went kind of off the rocker too. All
Mm-hmm.
of you guys actually had it pretty rough for a couple of years through there.
Yeah, we
And
definitely
then
all in different ways, but yes, for sure.
yeah, then you moved in with L, and then
Yeah, I actually did. We did that before I actually moved out of finished up high school.
yeah, I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And
And I had quit drinking then, and it was a lot different than the second time. Meaning, I was really white knuckling it, which is a term I've heard other addicts say, which basically means you didn't really fix the problem, you just stopped drinking.
right,
So basically, I was pretty like I don't want to say I was miserable, but I was definitely
you were bitter about not being able to do it with your friends. Like
correct.
you were holding yourself to this whole thing of like I'm not going to drink anymore. But you could definitely feel like whenever we'd still occasionally invite you out or whatnot, but it's definitely like a feeling where you were mad that you were saying no,
Yeah, I
and it
wasn't okay
wasn't.
with it.
Yeah, yeah,
Whereas like now, if you, Brad, my brother, if we all did an all nighter of video games and pizza and Doritos and all that shit, and half of you guys were drinking, it would just be a good time.
right.
There'd
Yeah,
be
because it wouldn't be something where you're like, oh, look at these assholes drinking, and
yeah,
I'm
look at
not.
these assholes that can drink, and what's wrong with you that you can't?
Right.
Because that's really what
Yeah.
it was. It was this thing like, why the fuck? What the fuck is wrong with you that these guys can do this and you can't? Like, what
Yeah.
kind of what are you missing? You know?
My girlfriend got the joy of doing something that nobody in their 30s wants to ever do on a Friday.
What's that?
She got to go to a 21-year-old's birthday party.
Oh, oh shit!
So she was doing that, and I went to see Interstellar, and initially the plan was they're all going to go out to bars, and they're going to go drinking in downtown Minneapolis or whatever. And what ended up happening with this one was they decided they're going to do it as a house party.
Mm-hmm.
And across the board, everyone that I've mentioned this to asked the same question of, isn't that how you drink before you're 21?
Yeah, no shit. Right.
We're kind of like, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds
So
about right. Yep.
my friend Ben Reeves, is on like the rating scale of where your friends fit, he's probably like between a solid PG or PG-13.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, what's the point of that?
That's a great question for that situation. What is the point of that?
But apparently it's really driving home with a few comments you made about like different situations about how you feel around people drinking or what's going on. And there's definitely, apparently it was not the greatest time in the world because some people become just totally different and it doesn't work at all.
100% true. Yes.
So
Like I know a lot of people who drink and they just get, obnoxious and belligerent and like angry and violent. And it's like, man, what are you, what's wrong with you inside that this brings that out? Because I understand getting happier and more talkative and all that kind of stuff.
yeah,
But man, like, what are you holding back in every day when you're sober?
right.
You know
Yeah,
what I
it's
mean?
like
Like
when you're not like this, like how rough is Monday through Friday?
right
Like,
inside that brain of yours is like just fire, just like fire and hot coals. And then when you drink it, finally comes out into everybody else, and everybody's like, "This guy's a fucking dick."
Yeah. It's I think the best compliment that you can get as somebody who does anything like drinking or anything recreationally is when people say that you're pretty much the same. Either
Mm-hmm.
way, it's like good,
Yeah, that means you're
good.
not, hiding much and you're not holding back much, you know, when you're not drunk.
Yeah.
I think that's true. I've thought, when people say, you get more giggly or get happy or whatever, it's like that's good, but yeah, why aren't you like that all the time?
Right.
Why don't you just
Right.
enjoy life more?
So for me, the only time where I feel really uncomfortable and I really want to use like drinking as a crutch is if I'm around a lot of people I don't know.
Right.
Like if I'm at a social function and I don't know anybody there, it's like I really need to take this edge off because I don't want to be here. Like,
Right. Yeah.
but
I think we all have different techniques as far as that goes, because I know, a lot of people who have, they won't do a social event like that because there's nobody there, nobody there. I won't know anybody. So why would I go?
right,
And it's one of those things where I almost actively think if I have to do or be in a situation like that, because sometimes that does happen for me, where like bring it back to arm wrestling, I'll go to a practice that I know one guy. One guy says, "Hey man, would you I don't know if you're interested, but come to this practice." And I'm like, "Sure, I'll come." And there's 12 people there, and I know one guy. And
right,
especially in a situation with arm wrestling where you know you don't know if a guy is going to be cool or if he's going to be kind of a prick. Because
right,
some guys get, they're there's actually very few in arm wrestling, which is I like a lot. But there are guys who, you control on the table and they get really almost offended by it because it's a blow to their manhood or their ego or whatever you want to call it. Um, but I always try to think that like if you talk to somebody who you don't know, that they don't know you either, so they're probably just as uncomfortable.
right, right,
So it's one of those things where it's like just try to be a friend to them, even if you don't know them. And if you try to be a friend to somebody who you don't know in a situation like that, you're going to find out who they really are pretty quick, because they're either going to be pretty relieved and they're going to be pretty cool, or they're going to be really quiet, which might just be who they are. They're just a quiet person. Or you find that some people you just try to be a friend to and they're just not that cool of a person. And I don't mean like as far as like, the stereotypical cool thing, but like this guy's just kind of an ass and I don't want to be his friend.
yeah.
That definitely happens too.
I so I'm actually naturally pretty shy.
Mm-hmm.
I can definitely overcompensate to the other side pretty easily because I get the whole like social dance and game of all that stuff of to how to fit in.
Right.
But for me, it's saying I want to go out and meet a whole bunch of people isn't anything that ever jumps into my mind as an idea of a good time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think of like going out to see people, like our company's having a Christmas party in December, like the second week. I don't even want to go. Like there's gonna be 80 people there, and I only like a handful of them.
Right.
Not that I dislike the other ones. It's just that I definitely feel like it's straining me, or I'm feeling exhausted trying to keep up conversation with them because I don't know enough about their personal lives to have a conversation that I view as meaningful or interesting.
Right.
And I'm not a huge fan of small talk because why waste my time talking to this person about things that neither of us care about when I could talk to somebody else that I do like about things that both of us care about.
Yeah. I'm kind of the same boat as that. I don't understand the small talk.
And so you can't just be. I tend to be overly blunt sometimes, where people are like, I'll just like I've actually said before, "Welp, I'm bored," and just walked away.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not to be a dick. It's just I'm bored. I don't want to have this conversation. I don't like.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too. Like some people will be offended by that, but then there's going to be the other people that are like, "Oh, thank you," because
Yeah.
I was too, but I just couldn't say that. And those people. Then you're like, "All right, cool. I like this guy."
You just drop the whole. You know what? This conversation is really awkward, so I'm just gonna go talk to these people. Have
Yeah,
fun.
and that person's like, "Oh, thank you. Yes, please do go talk to them."
if they're around their friends, they make that face like, oh, what a dick. But inside, they're like, I love you.
Yeah, they're like, oh, but they're inside. Yeah, inside they're just dancing. Thank you so much for leaving. So I don't have to talk about the fucking. Isn't it getting cold? Yes, it does every year.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's the challenge of going out socially. It's yeah, not my favorite thing in the world.
Yeah,
but
there's definitely. Go ahead.
What actually helped me a lot, something I've thought about for a couple of years, is when I started playing online games like Final Fantasy 11 or World of Warcraft, where when you take away things like different economic barriers, such as how much money you have in real life, or your height, or how many things you have, and you pretty much just have to get along with other people based purely upon your personality and a common interest in a game.
Mm-hmm.
That experience actually helps kind of curb and refine, kind of resculpt a lot of the anxiety I got in situations when I was talking to people, because now it made it easier to, when there's no preconceived expectation of how I should be, because people can't see my face, they don't know what I drive, they don't know what my house looks like. You're just meeting up with them to do stuff together. It kind of was a very low anxiety way to kind of get to learn how to express myself better to other people without getting all weirded out about it.
Yeah.
Probably one of the best things I ever did. And then same thing I carried over to, like, to playing Street Fighter. Like, a bunch of my friends that are my closest friends at this point, I met through doing that. And you're probably seeing the same thing happening as you're going through your arm wrestling, where you're having a common interest in people to share it with, makes that breaking the ice a whole lot easier, because now you actually have something worth talking about. That
yeah, it's one of those things where I've met enough people in arm wrestling who are very interesting people outside of the sport. They have something else about them that's super interesting, that's rare. To even find a sport like arm wrestling, I think you have to be that kind of guy who's looking for, the 1% of life, meaning
right.
You're not super interested in, doing the things that most people are doing. You probably were into very, specific avenues before it. And that really helped me in realizing that everybody out there probably has something about them that's really interesting and rare. And it might take 20 minutes of me talking to them to get there. You know what I mean? Like, if you talk to somebody long enough, there's going to be something that comes out that you go, really? Like, you do that? You did that once? What was that like? And then it's like, that's what I look for in people. And I think, yeah.
Oh, no, keep going. I didn't.
Oh, I like to think that, everybody has that. Some people don't. I mean, some people they really just go through life. They go to school, they get a boyfriend or a girlfriend, they get married, they have some kids, they get a job, and then they die. And I kind of admire that too, where it's like, really, you're content with the simpleness of that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, because I'm always looking for, like, what's that shiny thing over the horizon over there? I got to run after that.
It's something I found with making friends and keeping relationships with people in general, where you mentioned that you talk to somebody for 20 minutes and that something comes up where you're like, oh, that's interesting.
Right.
I've actually thought about how you and I are still friends after so many years, or like us and our friend Brad, or how I'm still in touch with your brother all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the people that you meet in your life as you're growing up or go through anything, like when you have previous jobs or whatnot, a lot of people you just stop talking to. And it's those conversations where you find that thing after 20 minutes, that each time that you find one of those things, that's how you actually are finding, like, making better friendships with people. Because a lot of people that you're arm wrestling with right now, you guys are arm wrestling buddies, and most of you probably just have arm wrestling in common. But then there's probably another set within those people of people you talk to more, and then you find that you have aligning viewpoints in parallel with each other, or that you have similar other hobbies outside of arm wrestling.
Sure.
And I think the more shared interests that people have, I don't think anybody likes anybody else just for the sake of liking them.
Right.
I think the more things that you like that somebody else likes that you can talk about are what make you better friends for a longer period of time.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And I think that's an interesting thing that you said too, that people don't just like people for the sake of it. And I think that's what, especially in today's day and age, I think people are starting to believe that you have to. Like, I have to go through my life loving everybody, peace and harmony, whatever. And the fact
No.
is that, right. And the fact is that you're not going to like some people, and some people aren't going to like you. It doesn't mean you have to hate them. It doesn't mean you have to stop them from doing anything that they're doing. It just means that you guys don't like each other and you just don't deal with each other. And that's okay.
If you want to feel more complete in your life, becoming comfortable with knowing that it's okay to dislike people is great.
Exactly.
Not even just dislike people, but taking comfort in the ability to be just totally apathetic towards somebody else. No pros to them, no cons to them. Just be like, yeah, they're a person that I've seen around. They have no impact on my life.
Yeah, and once you like, I think everybody's had somebody in their life who they felt the exact opposite about that. Whether it was you absolutely loved them or you absolutely hated them, or you felt a real pain that you knew that they didn't like you. Like, how could that person not like me? What did I do? That internal, anxiety that I know I used to get it. That when you have that person and then you find out, you really honestly assess yourself, years later, and you think to yourself, wait a minute, I don't feel anything. Like, I don't hate them, but I certainly don't like them. I hope everything's fine with them, but I really don't care.
Yeah, I had my buddy, this guy named Doug. I used to hang out with. We do like the whole friend sleepover thing when I was a kid. We'd watch movies together, eat junk food, and play video games or whatnot. And just, when I got out of high school, I met my first girlfriend, and that I think whenever anybody has like a girlfriend when they're first younger, until the relationship is more mature, that's pretty much all they want to. The only person you want to spend time with for weeks and weeks and weeks on end.
Yes,
and that relationship definitely impacted the relationship I had with my other friend. And it's one of those things where over the years, I've tried to kind of rekindle things with them. And it's like, it's not like I don't dislike him and I'm not mad at him for not being my friend anymore. But it's like one of those things where you just are able to look at it and be like, we were good friends then. We're not anymore. And it was fun to be their friend while we got along. And that's going to happen to a lot of people in your life. And if you can be okay with that and just be like, it's all right. I've got new friends that I'll make, or I'll just do this. It makes everything a lot easier.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think, just accepting that, at a certain point in time, you two had, parallel thinking is enough. Like, every time, if anybody ever asks you about that person, you have good things to say.
Yeah, he was a great guy.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what else you can ask for, if as far as a relationship where it's not active.
Right.
That's pretty good, because there's a lot of people that, everybody who they don't keep in contact with, they feel bad towards. And it's like, relationships are 50-50, man.
That's where Facebook, I think, made life a lot harder. And I kind of, I mentioned this a few times on the show, but I did the whole like just friend purge, where I just axed my friend list down to people I only actively interact with.
Right.
Because people will post things about opinions or things in their lives that don't really affect me, but I might not agree with it. And then I start wondering to myself, like, I'm getting in these fights and arguments with people that I would no longer even associate with in any capacity if it wasn't for that social network site.
Right.
I stopped talking to them years ago, and then people start adding each other as friends and blah, blah, blah. I went to high school with this person, and I used to hang out with this girl and her friends and whatever, like choir room or something.
Sure.
And you get wrapped up back up in it, and then you realize that it's all trivial and it doesn't matter. Because if you were meant to still be friends after like 10 or 15 years, you would have not lost touch with these people for 10 or 15 years.
Yeah,
and
you
interacted
still,
just over
right.
nothing.
You still would have been buddies. And also, I think Facebook, as far as like opinions and all that kind of stuff, like you said, you don't have to necessarily agree with them, but also people want you to like engage in a conversation about those issues on Facebook, and it's impossible.
Oh yeah.
It's impossible to have a meaningful conversation about issues in this country or in the world over Facebook.
It's the only thing that's worse is Twitter. How fucking asinine.
Yeah, exactly. I'm
Having
gonna change the world in
debates
140 characters at a time.
or less.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or less. Yeah, if I use a hashtag, it's gonna be less.
Yeah, it's like the whole
Hashtag change
media
the
thing
world.
about Gamergate and that whole ridiculous scenario, and it's people are having these debates over Twitter, and it's like you can't just spew things out, like spew your thoughts out there and then expect anything meaningful back in return.
Yeah,
Like
you can't do it. You cannot do
doesn't
it.
work.
It does not work. And the thing is, you can write out a sentence that if you were to speak it out loud, it would come across totally different than if you were to just type it out. And people might read a paragraph that you write on Facebook and go, "Oh my God, this guy is out of his mind. He's a bigot. He's this, he's that." And then if you were just to say it to you, you'd kind of go, "Oh yeah, there's a couple of good points in there." But for some reason, because the inflection of the human voice is lost,
Right.
you can put your own on it. And that's hugely a problem.
I will, like, what is it? Not blocking, but unpublish or unsubscribe from people's feeds that are people that I generally get along with. But if we have wildly different political or social views, I'll like unfollow their posts because I don't want to see it.
Yep.
Like, which on one side makes me seem like really closed-minded, but the other point is kind of like the whole thing with you're friends with people that you have similar interests in. If we have disagreements on like key things, and that is going to be all I'm going to see from you on your post, like that could negatively impact our friendship for the parts that are good. So
yeah, and the thing is too, it's like we can talk about all those things that I don't agree with in person, and we'll be just fine.
Right.
It's just different when it's in writing because you can't have this free flow of real-time thought. It's impossible to do. So really, by blocking your friends' political or social stances on the internet, you're not blocking them. You'd be more than happy to have a discussion about it. But we can't do it over Facebook.
Well, because these are the same people that if you see them in person and they start to talk about something, you'd be like, man, we don't agree on that. Let's just talk about something else.
Right.
But you can't hide from it.
No.
You publish your Facebook wall.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to them what they post. It's up to them what they put on, and it's going to be, unfortunately, there's a large chunk of people in this country who are completely on one side or the other.
Mm-hmm.
And like I've been called a liberal and a conservative by many people, as far as politics go.
I don't even know what you are.
I'm just a human being. I fucking agree with both sides on the things. It's like, okay, leave me alone. Don't completely kill me on taxes and all that kind of stuff. But you know what? If gays want to get married, have fun.
Yeah, it doesn't cheapen your heterosexual marriage to have somebody else get married that doesn't feel the same way.
Because you're absolutely right. And I actually was reading an article this morning. I actually did post it on Facebook. So I guess I'm I don't know if it would be called full of shit or not, but I definitely I don't post them all that often, but I was reading this article this morning on Tennessee was trying to get gay marriage passed, and it got shot down. And I was just reading it, and the article wasn't slighted one way or the other. It was actually a pretty fair article. It was basically just explaining that, why it got shut down and how it's, how much of a mess it's going to be for the states, basically following in these footsteps of you're giving the states all the rights to choose on their own. And it's going to be just a mishmash of yes and no's. And I was reading about it and I was thinking about it, and because I believe that if you're gay and you want to get married, go ahead. I don't care. It doesn't at all take away from heterosexual marriages. And this is America. You pay taxes. You should be able to do what you want. And it's not anybody else's, it's not your responsibility for how anybody else processes your relationship. It just isn't.
So I'm really back and forth on whether or not I think that states should be able to have their own laws or not.
Well, I understand
Because
why.
well,
I think
because
anybody with a brain would, really.
on one side of things, I think that you shouldn't be able to have states declaring that things are illegal that are legal in the rest of the country.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't think that that's okay. But on the other side of things, if we look at the full scenario of like the state government versus the federal government, and if there's only a federal government, then these like lunatics that pass certain laws would be passing them for the entire country,
Right.
which is actually worse.
Yeah, it's one of those
So
things. Like I've really thought about this a lot, and I've had a lot of discussions with people that were, very hard on each side. And I honestly believe if we were just take gay marriage, I support gays and whatever they want to do, but I kind of think that they've dropped the ball as far as gay marriage. And the only reason I say this is because um, I really think they had a great opportunity to do something new, to come out with something brand new that a lot of frustrated heterosexuals with marriage, because there's a lot of frustrated heterosexuals as far as marriage goes. Because really, marriage, if you don't believe in God, if you're an atheist who wants to get married, really, it's a business contract with the government.
right, right.
I mean, is there a legitimacy to why you'd want to do that? Sure, of course there is. But that's what it is. You can dress it up and this is going to improve our relationship and I'm going to get your last name, or, on either side now. I guess there's some guys that take last names of women now. But I don't know if I've talked to one straight couple who got married where they said, yeah, our relationship is so much deeper now because of marriage.
No, nobody would say that. It's the same.
Yeah, I would think. So the only people I've ever talked to that were straight couples that would say that would be religious couples, because they say in the eyes of the Lord, we are one, which I understand that.
It's really interesting that you say that. We went to two weddings over the summer, and one of them was two of my friends that their whole thing for the marriage was it was really a show. Like their approach towards their marriage was it was to make their parents happy and to be a party for them and their friends.
Yeah, that just seems like a horrible reason.
It was actually the better wedding, because it was
I could see that.
it was very laid back, and the couple had been seeing each other for about 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then like, oh, whatever, let's just get it done. And a part of it too is because now that they had like a house and life insurance comes into power, there's a lot of that for that too. And that was like, we got into the ceremony. It was an outdoor ceremony. It started raining, and then I think we're maybe only there for about 4 minutes. And then the groom is just like, it is really horrible. Let's just go back to reception and start drinking. And that was pretty much how their wedding ceremony went.
Yeah, I mean,
and then we get back, and it's like this party, and it was like really, really okay. Then there was another wedding that I went to where the fact that the man and the woman were getting committed to each other was downplayed to the fact that it was a religious ceremony,
right?
Which was weirder for me to see, because it was like you have these two people that I always thought like the day of a wedding was supposed to be about that couple or that couple's commitment or that couple's happiness together. And to see that being downplayed as to it being something in the eyes of a god or religious thing, it's like, well, you're kind of understating the importance of the two people that we came here to see. Like,
yeah, it was almost like it's everybody says it's the woman's day,
right?
Well,
yeah, it's like
I'll take that over. Well, this is God's day.
Yeah, it's like this is supposed to be like her day, but they were playing it as how now like she's to be like the body of the church to her husband, and I'm like, this is really different.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and it's I think the gay community could have come out with something that they would have said, you know what, you don't want us to get married, then we won't get married, but we're going to do this. And you know what, if there's any heterosexuals out there that don't agree with marriage too, you can come on over to our side. And I think that would have been such a huge social step.
One of my best friends is gay, and The only thing about him being gay that potentially could have ruined our friendship was because of the fear or the stigma of being identified as such. He didn't want to tell me for years,
Okay.
which actually put a bigger strain on our friendship than if they had just told me.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that, yeah, like doing things like legalizing like gay marriage and moving forward in that is something that a lot of like friendships and people won't have to endure that anymore. I just can't see, I don't see any negatives to that at all.
Me neither. I really don't understand the argument. So what I did is because what I do try to do a lot is if I have a strong opinion on something, I try to go the exact opposite and look up that just to see if I can't get 1 ounce of, just understanding. Like, okay, I don't agree, but I understand where you're coming from.
From like so kind of like the thing from last week where if you're gonna make your criticism about something, turn the light back on the other side of it and see, well,
I think it's one of those.
see.
I think if you're gonna like, it's to really simplify it, it would almost be like, you only saw 10 minutes of a movie and you told everybody that it sucks. Like,
Right.
well, it's an hour and a half movie, dude. You didn't even see, like, maybe at 45 minutes it turns around where you can't look away. So I looked up, it was a simple Google search. Anybody out there can look it up. I just looked up top reasons why gay marriage is harmful. I hear the Google.
Is it wrong or harmful?
Harmful. And I came up, I think it was the very first search was
from the tfpstudentaction.org.
You got it.
And it has marriage in quotes.
Yes. And the TFP Student Action is a project of the American Society for the Defense of Tradition, Family, and Property. So basically, it's about what this group, views morality as what it should be. So that's who's coming up with this list.
Who appointed them as?
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, that's the obvious question, right? Like, okay, so these guys write the book on what the fuck life should be like. But I assume you're on the site right now.
I'm appalled as I'm reading through it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's basically a top 10 list of why homosexual, in quotes, marriage is harmful and should be opposed. It must be opposed. Is that number one is that it's not marriage, because marriage is a connection or a covenant between a man and a woman, which is by its nature ordered toward the procreation and education of children and the unity and well-being of the spouses. So basically, it's one of those things where people can have such a narrow-minded view of what marriage could be, because there's straight couples that don't fall into that group. There are straight couples out there that have no intention on ever having a child. There's straight couples out there that, the woman can't have a child.
Or the man can't produce a child.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, does that make them any less of a married couple? Not in my opinion, but in these guys, maybe. I mean, I don't have these guys in front of me. But number 2 is that it violates natural law. Now, I'm guessing.
You mean the same natural law that has like asexual organisms that split into clones of themselves?
Well, that's what yeah, I would imagine, right? It says natural law's most elementary precept is that good is to be done and pursued, and evil is to be avoided.
So so natural law isn't even actually, they're not referring to the natural laws like the laws of nature or the physical,
I don't know if they're
the biological laws of the animal kingdom. This is a
moralistic
okay,
natural law.
So,
that, again, who's moral? Yeah, anyway, I mean,
number 3, where it denies a child either a father or a mother. I don't know how many families grow up with both being present anymore. Both of them are always at work, and every kid is raised by daycare anyways.
That's one point. And another point is, how many gay couples were your friends' parents growing up?
So Well, none. But the other thing is just looking at this where it says that the child is always denied either a father or the mother. And it says he will necessarily be raised by one party who has no blood relationship with him. So I'm assuming then based off of that this same moral compass states that like adoption is an anomaly and bad as well.
I mean, I can only imagine, right? I mean, they're not being, you have to, it's frustrating because they're throwing a huge broad, or narrow beam into one subject, and you can have 10 follow-up questions that there wouldn't be any answers to them. And it denies a child either a father or a mother. I didn't have any friends who had gay couples as parents growing up. And you know what? There was a good amount of people that I met who were raised with a father and a mother, and they're fucking.
I met a decent amount of people who were. Did I lose you, by the way?
Nope.
Okay, for a second you cut out there. It's like, wait, did you go?
No, I'm right. I'm right here. I'm right here.
To have not your biological father and mother, or to have two sets of parents, like
right, and a basic line that I give a lot to downplay that for people who really believe highly in marriage, because that's great, but straight. So what that the abuse that we've been putting marriage through as straight people, and to think if you're looking, I should have a problem with that too. And I don't. I mean, do whatever you want, but I mean, come on.
Yeah. I unfortunately missed a bit of what you said through that, and I feel really bad to say this. But I'm getting some technical difficulties on my end where you're cutting out mid-sentence for a couple of seconds and coming back.
Really?
Yeah, right there it was okay, but totally breaks the flow of conversation. But
oh,
yeah, it's all.
Yeah, we'll just do the best we can, I guess.
Yeah.
Let me try to.
We got what 15 minutes left of the show anyway, so
yeah, we'll be good.
We'll power through this. But so the thing is too is as we're going through this list and we're looking at these reasons that this group created, and we're saying this is ridiculous and this doesn't make any sense. At the same point, the people that are writing this list look at the things that we believe in and say the exact same things.
Of course.
Like, how can somebody say that there isn't a God? Or how can somebody say that this is the scariest and most frustrating thing that I deal with on a daily basis? And this is where, like, we talk about like different extremes in like religious and beliefs, and like dropping people from your feeds based off of what their opinions on things are.
Right.
It's very frustrating and confusing for me to look at reasons for things based off of I feel and superstition, as opposed to just looking at like facts and observation.
Right. It's one of those. It's a situation for me that I don't want to live life based on what might be. I want to work with what I have, and that's what the only thing I have on this planet, as far as I know right now, is I have the people around me and the people, the 7 billion people that are on this planet with me.
Right.
So denying them of the things that they desire, and also the things that I'm allowed to have that for some reason that they're not. It's just, I don't know what the argument is for it.
Why just go around being a dick to people for no reason is kind of what it feels like. And it's when you see sites like this and lists like this, the whole reason that we have these stigmas surrounding different groups of people, and this isn't even just as opposed to like, issues with like homosexual marriage in Tennessee or anything like that. It's the same reason why we have issues with like racism, or why we have problems like political parties, is because of people spreading information about something and other people believing it,
Right.
in a manner that is non-scientific.
Mm-hmm. And
Because
yeah, and a group of people who might feel uncomfortable with homosexuality, which is not the same as hating it. You know, if you're out there and you just you see two guys kissing and it makes you feel weird, but you don't think that they shouldn't be doing it, you're in a different level than these people.
I don't think anybody would have felt weird about it if we weren't told from, like, at least
Oh,
from
of
where
course.
we grew up, we were told that it was gross. But the only reason we might think it was be weird is because people told us that.
Sure. Yeah.
If nobody said anything about it to us, I don't think we would even notice.
No, we wouldn't have. And that kind of change takes multiple generations. Just because, you know, you can live with 3 generations still being alive, no problem in today's day and age.
Right.
So it takes a long time for that kind of thing to happen. But, you know, there's a lot of people out there that just they feel strange in the presence of homosexuality, but they absolutely believe that they should be able to continue doing it. You know, that kind of thing, you know, just because you feel strange about it doesn't you shouldn't feel terrible about that. Maybe
Well,
you
you
should
should
work
also
on it, but
you should ask yourself why you feel strange about it.
sure, absolutely. But these guys, I mean, number 4, it validates and promotes homosexual lifestyle. So what?
Yeah.
You know,
No,
that's
it's already validated.
this is one of the top this is one of the top 10 reasons as to why it needs to be opposed, is because it might actually validate what somebody's been feeling since they were a kid.
The thing, they keep going onto this list about how this violates basic moral values.
Right.
And I thought, like, one of, like, the primary morals of just being in society is to, like, promote cohesiveness and decency throughout your society.
Yeah. It's one of those things where I have a friend of mine who's devout Christian, and I've had these discussions with him, and he's one of the guys I look at when we discuss these things, and I think, okay, if most religious people who are, you know, strongly religious are like this, then I'm okay with it. Because I asked him, I'm like, man, I just can't wrap my head around not treating homosexuals as if they're equals. And he told me, you know, according to his God, it's his job to love everybody on this planet like they are his brother or sister.
Right.
And he goes, if God wants to judge him for being homosexual, that's up to him, not me. And I'm like, okay, I can get behind that.
Right.
You might feel like your God has an opinion on it, but it's not up to you. You know,
Right.
I think that's a healthier way of looking at it anyway, you know?
No, I agree. I definitely agree. It's, again, though, it's just like the whole perspective. Like, it's, for us, this is unheard of, but in Tennessee, people would be like, well, have you seen this site? It pretty much covers it succinctly as to what the problems are.
Right.
And there's a podcast of 2 people just like us with much thicker Southern accents going on about how ludicrous it is that such a notion was even brought to the state.
Right. And it's
Just
also
like
a group of people who, you know, obviously not all of them, but there's a group of people that believe to the exact word all of these sayings and all of these points, and they are cheating on their wives, or, you know, they're stealing something from somebody. You know, they are not living this moral code that they're preaching.
Some guy in his trailer hating the gays while he's stealing cable from his neighbor.
Right.
Like,
and then the fact is that we're all human beings, and we all make our mistakes, and we all have problems, and we all have this and that. And to think that me as a lowly human being, just like the rest of everybody else, could ever tell somebody else what their moral fiber should be is so arrogant.
no, I agree.
You know?
Absolutely agree.
You know, and number 5 says that itself. It says turns a moral wrong into a civil right. I mean, it's just something I don't understand.
It's
like a different language.
None of these differences are insurmountable obstacles to marriage. The whole thing is that this is basically viewing marriage as the consummation of a marriage between a man and a woman as being what makes marriage what it is, when really it's a tax break.
Right. It's
At
a
the end of
business
the day,
contract. It's a business
it's
contract to
yeah,
most people in this country.
yeah. It's you don't need a priest to get married or to get married. You can get married like just a judge is actually more important.
Yes. Yeah. You don't need a priest to get married, but you do need the state to tell you you can.
Right, because the whole thing is when you have a marriage and a priest pronounces you man and wife, that part actually doesn't matter.
Right.
I'm
Legally.
under the impression as far as the legal system is concerned, once you have your marriage certificate that you just pick up from a woman named Ruth with her horn-rimmed glasses who really just doesn't want to be at her desk today.
Right.
Once you grab that certificate, in the state's eyes, you're good.
Yeah. And by the way, she's not at all happy that you're married. She's not gonna have roses. She's not gonna say anything nice.
No, she's gonna hate you because the reason she's handing these things out begrudgingly is because she never could get one herself.
Right. She's just so upset.
Also, if you are out there
Ruth.
listening to this show, Ruth, and you're exactly as we described you, that was an accident, and we did know you existed, and all
Yes,
mentions of people are fictitious and purely coincidental.
Yes, and Ruth, you can email us at john@thejohnbrownshow.com if you'd like to weigh in on the subject. I'd be happy to read your email ASAP, as they say.
Oh, my Gmail just popped up from Ruth. Go fuck yourself.
Ruth's got a hell of a mouth on her. Come on, Ruth, don't be like that. But yeah, this kind of goes back to my point too of I wish the gay community would have come up with the next level of thing. I wish they kind of would have, and this is just the childish rebel inside of me, I guess. But I really wish they would have just put their middle fingers in the air and said, "You don't want us to get married? We won't get married. You got it. We're going to do this. And we're going to have a lot of straight couples following us."
Yeah.
I just think that would have been so cool.
Or maybe, what these people could do that make their lives better is just keep away from, do the whole thing about, you're friends with people have common interests in you. Maybe these people should just avoid each other.
Oh, I think so too.
Why not just avoid the people because you don't agree with them?
Yeah, it's one of those things that, okay, you don't agree with gay marriage, then don't talk to people who are married and gay.
Yeah.
Like you can just you can just choose to not be associated with that group. You can just choose that, but these people choose to be thoroughly entrenched right next to it. And there's a small group of these people too that are like, I hate the gays, I hate the gays, I hate the gays, I'm gay. You know what I mean?
Well, usually those people too are like the people that have a lot of self-loathing, or they've been brought up where it's more shameful for them.
Yes, and you know what? Those people out there that are they're actually gay, and they are, in an anti-gay picket somewhere right now, spray painting a sign with stencils. We love you out there. Just come out. It's okay.
Yeah, your life will be better.
Yeah, you'll actually have a bunch of really happy people to be happy with.
Just throw down your picket in your sign. Just be like, well, I'm bored. I'm gonna go be gay.
Yeah, I'm gonna be gay. I'm gonna be super gay, and we'll love you for it.
Come to Vegas, do some shots.
Yeah, exactly. And then reason number 7, I just don't understand at all, that it defends the state's purpose of benefit. Oh, excuse me.
State's purpose of benefit.
Yeah, it's like, why? Again, it doesn't diminish standard marriage at all.
Well, yeah, and it says it bestows benefits that is nature to its, but its very nature and design, promoting conditions for stable, affectionate, moral atmosphere that is beneficial to the upbringing of children. What if you don't want to have children? Should you just not get married at that point too?
Right. That's it's just a strange thing that this is all built around. A man and woman meets, has children, dies. That's what we have printed on our backs. That's our instruction manuals.
Yeah.
Doesn't really make any sense. There's 7 billion fucking people. You think we need to have everybody has to have a kid now?
I just wonder how angry was a person sitting down to type this? Just the fact that marriage is in quotation marks.
Right. Come on. I mean, you don't have to agree with it. You don't have to agree with gay marriage. You can actually be against it, but you don't have to belittle what these people believe. And just like I'm not trying to belittle what these people believe. They obviously believe very strongly in this. It's just you have to ask yourself, you have to look at the exact opposite and understand that you might be wrong. You know, you might be really destroying somebody's life as far as what they really want to have, and that, you know, they don't want anything that everybody else doesn't have.
Oh my God, they have uniforms.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you go to the front page.
Yeah, we're abandoning this fucking top 10 list.
Yeah,
I think
no,
you can. Okay, but
all right, yeah, this has gotten dark.
home on the home page.
Yeah, Chase got a bunch of kids with like these red sashes.
Oh my God. TFP
Like,
student action. Subscribe your email. I could actually get emails. I'm kind of thinking I should. Just to, oh, I see it now. Ooh.
Yeah, look at that.
Oh, they're fashionable.
Yeah, no.
Like, why? I just don't understand.
I hate to tell this to you, TFE student action, but the gayest thing on your website is those scarves, guys.
Oh,
Yikes.
TFP student action.
Oh,
wow.
Jesus.
It's just so much time to spend making those picket signs.
I know. I don't think of the ink.
All those guys could have been jerking off other guys.
I know. In a circle.
Yeah, they could have been jerking each other off. That's probably the whole thing too. These guys just don't understand. Like, you know, maybe not. It is to, you know, just be who you from here. Well, anyway, yeah, if you agree with that or disagree with that, whatever. But I mean, come on, look at the exact other side too and see if there's any points. I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand, you know, because these people believe that a man and a woman married with children, that's what's going to continue our society into prosperity, because that's what it did in 1930 and 1950.
Oh, you mean during the Great Depression?
Sure. I mean,
and the Korean War.
See. And it's just one of those things where, I mean, they're not wrong. I mean, we do need other human beings to be made in order to keep this country going, but there's enough of that happening already. Like, if you don't let gay people get married, they're not going to go, oh, I'm going to be gay people and they're actually gay. I think there's a certain level of you know, where a lot of these people also believe that nobody's really gay. It's just the thought. Like, there are people that I remember from elementary school where I was like, if I knew it, I didn't know what it was.
I hate to break this to you, but that audio thing is happening again.
Oh, it's okay. Well, yeah. Basically, I was just saying. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I was just basically saying that if I were 7 years old and I knew what gay meant, I had gay friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, people are actually just gay.
Yeah.
And it's all right.
But yeah, this has been a definitely different subject matter this week.
Yeah, I don't know how we always end up getting ourselves into Dutch.
It's what happens when we go into each week and
with nothing prepared.
With nothing prepared.
I think it's fantastic.
We both sit at our microphones and cross our fingers and be like, please, no awkward pauses.
Yeah, I think we do a hell of a job, Gregory.
I think so too.
I like every direction it went.
I do too.
All right.
And if anybody else out there likes the directions we went or didn't, John at the johnbrownshow.com.
Yes, Jon.
Yeah, no H.
No H in this bitch.
No Johanathan.
All right, I think we're done.
All right.
Say
Thank
goodbye.
you very much.
Bye-bye now.
Bye, kids.